Yeah. I got you. Okay.
And more than being just more
Yeah. Good. Solid. Everybody comes together. Things are back.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Who's seat am I in?
We're all kind of.
Uh-oh.
This you probably won't come up with either.
What are you doing over there?
What are you doing? I never see you here.
We don't live there anymore.
So, but Vicky's sister lived here. Like everyone.
Yes, everybody's there. Everyone's there.
I don't even see you walking back and forth.
I do. I mean,
Well, it's been kind of hot.
I walked the dog
Yeah,
last
so
night.
that's expert.
Vicky,
How
you
was it?
know, Vicky went to the church.
Yes, I heard that.
Rather than the visitor, she
Oh,
liked
please, 3. Yeah, she loves it. She loves the church. She loves it.
And the
She's good to
phone
go.
number
She's good to go.
of the sales department isn't even on there.
So let's see. What do we got?
So,
What do we got?
I don't know, my brain is fried and I legit.
So were the other
Yeah, we're all there. We're all there. We're all there.
I don't even have my lot. I'm just.
So,
I know. I just left. I mean, I raced her. I thought I was gonna be late.
I didn't, yeah.
so I
I was
sent
like,
out
can I be late?
questionnaires and everything.
Well, you used to.
I tried you were late.
So, guys,
How are you?
because we have.
So all the compiling
We have our
and
meetings
getting
at
that subcommittee
one.
guys together.
We have our meetings at one. So I always think I can make that.
Based on
Here
the
I
notes.
I was just
And,
on
you know, she said, I'll go look it up and you're like, okay,
We're all
so.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
nice.
always late. So
Are
this
you
time I was like, we're gonna have to move
We
it
have a
over
hard
to
time
Monday.
finding
This is so far.
And then when we find it,
This is so far.
we're little.
Right?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to small it right now.
Is that just for the scan? Everybody's friends are like,
Yeah,
Going up or
they're
down?
really good.
Yes.
That's right.
And if you're short-waisted like I am, you feel like, I think that's the highest it's gonna go.
That's high as it's gonna
Yeah, I guess.
go? Can't tell. Yeah, they're pretty.
They're really far back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if they are.
They don't want you comfortable.
But they are, come on up.
I know.
I know, I feel so far away from everybody over there.
Who's seat?
Actually, I've got.
Okay. It's got 4 minutes.
You want to go in for more, do like.
600 people or something, I need more than one station.
That's good. We can use our, for the beach.
Okay, yeah, because somebody had commented, they were getting their, I think they said, have an FAQ, section, and that's always good because they hand load up,
Right.
you know?
Right.
I feel important out there. How's everyone doing? It's nice to see
It's
you.
like home for you.
Well, you aren't.
We have the big committee up here.
Exactly.
Well, how big are you guys?
At least they're comfortable.
They are, yes.
No, actually, you probably got these. Those he just,
Back and.
he said he gave these to other people that he saw, but, see, I don't live in South Carolina, so.
Oh, you do? I don't,
You didn't get one?
I didn't get one.
But hopefully they have extras.
Yeah, I saw one down there, but yeah. Well, maybe,
Yeah.
This one was left at the hotel. They brought it by.
Yeah,
They brought it by and just left it at the front desk.
yeah. I think he drove some by,
I had to go down and get it.
but I told them to drive to Dustin. Well, that's not too bad.
Lily Pulitzer and Vendor Vines.
Okay.
Check it out, let me know what you think.
I will.
Because that's my new barricade storefront program. I've got more that we're gonna do rolling out. I'm excited. Well, you'll get it.
These are minutes,
Oh, great.
Minutes from last meeting?
yeah, which,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, we got, you didn't get the memo?
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
how's it going, Jay?
Good, nice to see you.
A few minutes after? Yes, okay, absolutely.
I got your message. Sorry, I'm calling back. I've just been crazy.
No problem, I understand. I understand. Me too.
Yeah, it's funny, the off season, like, we just busy as the peak season.
Motion was made.
In our business, it's actually busier for me.
Yeah.
It's harder.
Well, you gotta play catch up or all that stuff.
Why is it busier? Because you're,
But
Trying to
you
get-
work hard because you have less cash flow. When you have cash flow, you can have more labor. And so you have less labor and you're working harder for a dollar because there's less dollars out there. And then you have to take a staff that you spent 6 months building and you've got to tear them down. And then shortly after that, right after the first of the year, you have to begin building that staff up again and training them and retraining them.
yeah, I see.
So for me, once I hit May, if staff's in place, I would never say it's cruise control, but I can focus down the road a little further, whereas right now, it's kind of focusing day to day.
Nice job on the packets, Michael. Thank you very much.
The help that you have in some-
Thank you very much.
deflect that.
Lovely.
Some people don't have it, some people don't have it. Is there any extra packets?
Yes.
Kept my staff together.
Okay, there you go.
You share love, take credit for that, like you do with David.
I'm sorry, what happened?
He didn't have a packet, he had extra packets.
Oh, okay.
Anyone else need one?
Who is this person?
I'd still be taking credit.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's Tracy.
Tracy, unless she got one too. He has extras though.
Okay, well, do I need to turn this on?
Do we? I don't think it's gonna work.
Testing.
Okay, so everybody's been hearing all this, huh? Okay. Well, it is 2:00, so, and we have a quorum. So if I could get everybody's attention, we will call this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here today. And our first order of business would be to look at and approve last meeting's minutes. Do I have anyone having any changes or additions to make to that? Okay, then let's move to vote to approve those. If everyone would say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we will pass those as they stand. Okay. I have here as old business is next on the agenda, and are you taking that,
Sure.
Michael?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So,
Okay.
good afternoon. Thanks for being here. In your packets there, you'll see kind of a reveal of our 2018 brand print campaign. I think as of our last meeting, we had either just completed or were in the process of completing the photo shoot to support this campaign. So what you've got there are not all of the ads and all their sizes, but all of the hero images and some different applications. When the agenda went out, it did have a link to a PDF with all the ads and all their different formats to include different sizes with co-op partners and without co-op partners. So really that's just an update that we wanted to share with you guys today. We're excited about the way they turned out. The co-op partners that they've been shared with to date have been pleased with them so far. So just wanted to share those with you guys so you saw them kind of from us first. With the first of our fiscal year coming up, these will be the ads that we'll be placing in publications and online here going forward for the next 12 months.
I would just like to make note that
Sure.
when I was looking at them, I thought the imagery was wonderful and the tags were great. My thought was that we have the beach communities at the top, but the only reference we have is down here in the logo that it's Florida. Has that ever come up from anybody else? Did anybody? I mean, if you're looking at this in a magazine and you see this, are you really going to know where that is?
That hasn't come up in my short time with the organization. What we try to accomplish with these is the stunning imagery that's going to capture someone's attention, and the imagery is designed to showcase the diversity of the community. And I think once we get people's attention and they dedicate a couple of seconds or more to take a look at the ad, that they'll find that. We didn't want any of the copy or anything else to distract from the imagery as a first impression. But I appreciate the feedback, and I'll definitely share that with the team as well.
I mean, if you look, well, okay, the logo's at the top on this one. I was still looking for where it was, I mean, in Florida, so, okay. That was just my only comment in looking at
Well,
those.
that's a good comment, and that's, you know, there are a couple of different logos, and the one with Florida is specifically to use with out-of-market advertising, if you will. It's a little bit of a challenge to read the copy. I know these are just printed out. I've looked at some of the ones online as well, but given some of the feedback you got on the website with regard to hard to read that reversed out white copy on vibrant images, I would just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and we did discuss that with the agency because that did come up in the website usability testing, the white copy and oftentimes kind of thin font on a light or bright background. I don't want to blame it entirely on the printer that we have in the office, but when we see these on screen and when we proof them and when they go into magazine print, I'm confident they'll be legible.
Great.
And so this is a 2-page spread right here. Is that what this is?
Which image are you
Oh,
looking at?
I'm just looking at the first one.
The bike image, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because that was going to be one of my comments too, was that the type of the beach communities, yeah, right here. I just wanted to make sure, and I thought it was, but it just, I know it's challenging to get them all in. I realize that, but they're so small.
Yeah, well, with that bike ad, for instance, or the fishing on the next page, since they are 2-page spreads printed out on less than a 8.5 by 11, they'd be a little bit more than double the size when they go to print. The final product will be a little bit more than double the size of what you have in front of you there.
Having been on this committee for more years than I care to admit, it seems like in the past we've always kind of come to the conclusion that there needs to be just a little bit of a Florida outline with a dot where South Walton is, and I think we've gone away from that. Because, you know, I think we know, I mean, we're kind of full of ourselves sometimes, and we know where we are, and we're great, but whoever's looking at this may not really know where it is. Does anybody have a comment about
No, I
that?
totally agree with that. Yes, because when you're out and about in other places, people, what you're saying, if you say South Walton, they're going to go, where is that? Even in Florida, within the state of Florida, it's so hard to get people to understand where we are because of just, they always think about Central or South Florida. If you're like in Michigan, you know, or somewhere, and they think of Florida, and that's what they think of. So I agree that some way to designate our area in the broader scope
I recall
is
that
definitely
some of our past
beneficial.
campaigns
Yeah.
had that kind
A little map of some kind.
Just an outline of Florida that had a
Right.
dot.
Right. Well, I mean, looking at again, going back to the usability testing questions and responses, and page 1 of that, where I'm not sure how many users went in to identify where South Walton is, but as stated here, only 3 users were able to place South Walton on the Gulf Coast. That's been going on. I mean, that's been an issue for a very, very long time. It's disappointing that it doesn't, I'm sure that needle has moved, but it is still a challenge to inform and educate folks as to where South Walton is. I know, you know, I do some pretty major events. I talk to people, you know, from all over the country, and, you know, it's a challenge.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, since so many of you are saying the same thing, I appreciate the feedback, and we'll definitely share that with the creative team. And
If I
keep
can,
that in
I'll
mind.
go ahead and weigh in
Yeah.
on that as well. I've
Sure.
been on the committee long enough, and we've spent a long time, especially going through the rebranding exercise focused on that, however you want to place it, where we are, or that we're not destined. And it seems that for a minute we kind of have lost that focus. So I can agree with what everybody has said.
We've always called it our geographic locator, and you're right, at some point we've lost that, so
Yeah.
I think the committee's recommendation would be to definitely bring that back.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much.
And you could probably kill two birds with one stone, because it looks like you're going to be working to do maybe some kind of map on the website. So if you did and we're always challenged with that too. Like, we need a great map, and it's just hard to get a great map that you can see in a small space and that clearly tells you where you are. But
Right.
you could possibly use that for website and advertising.
Gotcha. Yes. Yeah, we do have, outside of this creative, we have expressed that to the agency in different applications. We'll be going to Chicago, which I'll be talking about here in a couple minutes, this coming weekend, and all the digital and on-site advertising we're doing for that. The tagline is "Plan ahead, fly south," and it has a state of Florida map and a little airplane and a dotted line. I'll be happy to share some of that creative with you guys when we come back. To show where we are in the state and where we are relative to Chicago, and that it's an easy fly-to destination. So it's something that we're conscious of, and we'll make sure that it continues to get worked into creative going forward.
Thank you. Was there anything else about print ads?
No, like I said, just wanted to share that with you guys.
Okay.
I know we talked about, I think at the last meeting, that it was in development, so I wanted to show you the final product. Now that we'll be starting to get those inserted into our media plan. Wanted to make sure you guys kind of saw them here first. So that was more informative than anything else.
All right. Event marketing update.
This might be leading into the next topic. I was just going to ask, so the execution for the ones that are going to be promoting events, I assume that will be different than these?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so that brings us to the event marketing program. So where we are with that, the media plan for that is finalized for all the events. All of the events that take place between, I guess now or October 1st and December 31st, their individualized media plans have been shared with them. We're now in the process of sharing that creative with them. So the creative execution is different than what our brand ads are. Not all of them are finalized, otherwise I'd be sharing them here with you. But we are in the process now of sharing those with the event right holders, much like we do with co-op advertising. So we are in the process of that now. So far the reception has been, even though it's very early on, has been good. So we're excited to get that rolling out, knowing that this year is a departure from how we've done things in the past. We're excited to see kind of how that program goes. And how we can continue to fine-tune it.
So will you be running ads during the time period of that event, or leading up to it, or?
Yeah, leading up to. So it's all done by time of year. Some of the events we've been able to group by category, by kind of or interest. Some by time of year, depending on the placement and the either publication or digital opportunity. And our signature events do have standalone ads where they're not shared with other events, where they have individualized creative. So like I said, we're in the process of sharing those with all the event right holders currently.
Thank you.
Will those be shared with us as well? I'm just curious. I happen to work with an event that's taking place the first weekend of October, and I was just chatting with the marketing director, and she hadn't seen anything yet. So,
With us being
Harvest Wine and Food Festival.
She's got the media plan, and she should get the creative either today or tomorrow. It's just taken us a little while to pull together creative, so and get it to where it's kind of like co-op. You got to wait on everybody to get all of their stuff in at one time, so get it all ready. So, but yes, as Mike said, all of the creative for now through the end of this year has been sent out. Was trying to get it done before we move to moving into 2018.
thank you.
Any other further discussion on events?
Now, has there been any specs put in place as what is the lead time for marketing an event? And kind of to your point, and then I've got one too, so
Right.
it's pertinent to me
It's
as well.
in the, when you open up the media plan that I sent out to everyone, it's an individualized media plan, and it tells you exactly where your stuff is going to run, when your stuff is going to run, and we'll get it to you as soon as we can, based on the deadlines of the publications and those kind of things.
Is there a generalized, and whether it happens, I know this is the first year that we're doing this and everything's not going to go perfect. is there an ideal time frame? Because everybody's looking for room nights is how it's gauged, right? Is there an ideal time frame that before an event we would start those marketing pieces
So
would go
how
out?
far in advance of the event will the media be running? Is that your
Yes,
question?
that is my question.
I gotcha. Okay. It's generally 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? Okay, website subcommittee update.
So website subcommittee, I appreciate everybody's feedback on that. We made a couple of attempts to get together before this meeting and weren't able to get the whole committee together, being that it's only 4 people on the committee. If we have 2 absences, it's probably not worthwhile getting together. So I was able to send out a questionnaire and ask people for some feedback, which are some of the topics that we would have covered in the meeting. I've gotten them all back, and I'll be compiling and sending out that feedback to the subcommittee. I appreciate everybody's feedback on it. I'm encouraged that we're all kind of saying the same things as I've gone through everybody's responses. So I'm encouraged that we're all on the same page on what the priorities are. So the next steps from here will be to, after we've compiled that information, get the subcommittee together and start coming up with an action plan of next steps on engaging our agencies on how to best move forward to address some of these issues.
I just want to say thank you for inviting us to let us give you comments on it, because I think that was helpful. I hope it'll be helpful to you too.
Sure. Yeah, we recognize that it's our biggest marketing piece and something that needs work. So we wanted to get input from folks in the community and bed tax collectors and people that are facing the tourists every day. So we definitely appreciate the feedback, and it'll help shape the final product once we're able to get it into execution.
Is there any more old business that anybody would like to bring up at this time to discuss? Okay, so I guess we have new business.
So new business, I just wanted to touch a little bit on hurricane response, just because of the last few weeks or so with Harvey and Irma, and we weren't impacted by the weather here necessarily, but as it comes to things like Harvey, we are sensitive to the folks in the communities that we're marketing to, and we are able, fortunately, with a large portion of our media plan being digital, to kind of pause or turn off certain communities at certain times, which we did with Houston after Harvey, just as a sensitivity issue while those people are kind of recovering and rebuilding. We are able to do the same with Irma, although a lot of the communities it affected aren't necessarily as much a target for us as Houston is. But I just wanted to kind of touch on that we're able to segment our email list and a lot of our digital opportunities and kind of put things on hold and wait for the appropriate time to reactivate those things. So just wanted to bring that up a little bit and kind of let you know where we stand there. Fortunately, we weren't impacted by Irma from a weather standpoint, but as far as our outreach to other communities around the Southeast, we are doing our best to kind of monitor that and keep an eye on those sorts of things as they happen.
I'd be curious to know during the event, what kind of, your office, were you guys receiving phone calls? Did you have messages on your Facebook page? I don't know, we were bombarded as the storm was approaching, obviously, with people wanting to call, cancel reservations, not really understanding the geography of the state of Florida
Right.
At that time. And I'm just curious to know how your office, again, what the
Sure.
response was there. I did at one point call David, and he was kind enough to put out some messaging so that, again, whether they called Seaside or Newman Daily or whoever, again, that we had a consistent voice
Gotcha.
within the destination. And so I don't know if there were some learnings during this as well
Yeah,
for your team.
To be honest, we didn't, especially on social media, we didn't get a whole lot. We continue to push pictures of the beach conditions as they were, because it never really did get to a spot where we were really impacted by the weather. A lot of the questions we get in have to do with, should we evacuate? What's it going to be like on Tuesday? We direct a lot of those things to the county's emergency management department, who's kind of the county's official voice on when a local state of emergency is declared, and that sort of thing. So a lot of those questions we deflect to emergency management, so the county is kind of speaking in one voice. As far as phone calls and things, we didn't get too many. We didn't get to a point where the weather was bad enough where we addressed it on social media. Once it was clear that we were kind of in the clear, we were a little bit more aggressive in sharing live footage of the beach and showing that it was still beautiful and unscathed by the storm. But we didn't get a tremendous amount of inbound inquiries. Maybe it's because when we do get them, or people, especially on social media, see that our response is, to follow emergency management's Facebook page or contact emergency management for the county's official position at the time on whether things like the bridges are closed or if there's a voluntary or mandatory evacuation. We don't want, as the tourism arm, to be communicating that information. We'd rather that come from emergency management. So we try to facilitate their message.
Mike, those calls you were getting with people asking about evacuation, were those local residents?
No, and to be honest, it wasn't many in general that we got. It was a lot of what I saw was people who were in their hometowns, be it in Alabama or wherever, and just curious. I love that area. I hope it's okay. What does it look like down there? Or I hope nothing happens. This is my favorite place in the world. What does it look like down there? What's going on down there right now? Are you guys safe? That sort of thing.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird balancing act. We got quite a few inquiries, and we wanted to be able to communicate that we're open and we're not affected by the weather, and still be sensitive to the fact that so many people in Florida were seriously impacted by it. So it definitely was a little bit of a balancing act.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we did. We just continued to share kind of the positive beach message. Had it gotten worse or had it come kind of further into the Gulf, we would have changed our tone. But since it never did, we wanted to make sure that we were at least communicating that there was no damage here and no flooding and things like that, because people do lump us in with the rest of the state.
I have to say that, we take our lead from Walton County Emergency Management Services also. And in past years, they were more assertive in their communication. There was one year they were way too assertive because they jumped the gun. But this year, they were really quiet. Like, I was trying to seek out, information from them, and it just wasn't really there. So we were kind of left to our own devices, which is fine. But then you do have, you're not speaking as one voice, and people are saying different things, and then it can kind of get, to be a bit of a mess. So I was a little surprised that they were as quiet as they were this year. But I'll take that up. I'll take that up with them.
Well, I was going to say, they did at least they said their Facebook was going to be their main source.
Yep.
And so I did visit their Facebook page regularly, and they posted morning and afternoon updates, which I did think were helpful. And again,
and that's what we did as well, morning and afternoon, in line with when the most updated hurricane information hits the National Hurricane Center.
yes.
Were accommodations like heads and beds affected?
We had a huge influx at Sandestin, a huge 2-day worth of influx that was busier than any 2 days in the summer. So I mean, short term
evacuees, you mean?
Evacuees coming
Yeah.
in. We lost
we did
group
too.
business, obviously, on leading up to, and then that whole full week after. We lost quite a bit of group, but a lot of it just moved into October. So there's one maybe or two that have canceled that haven't rebooked yet, but incredible influx. I mean, it was, the phones couldn't answer all the phone calls that we got into reservations for those 2 days on that Friday, Saturday. So more than made up for the group that was lost.
We've heard that from some other bed tax collectors as well.
Yeah, very, very, very busy for those that weekend.
Our hotels were sold out for all intents and purposes.
That's good. Any other discussion on that? Okay. Director of Marketing updates.
Thanks. So I've been here for 3 months now, and I appreciate everybody's feedback and help in that time. I've enjoyed working with you, and definitely appreciate all the open and candid conversation. So please keep that going along. I think just to kind of give you an update on kind of our office a little bit, I think the marketing team that we have in place now, who's all here, is clicking really well, and we're kind of moving all in the same direction. So I think a lot of great things are to come that you guys will be excited about. Wanted to just put a bug in your ear. You should have probably gotten an email about the annual meeting on Friday, October the 27th. So at the Hilton Sandestin. So I hope to see you guys there, and you'll get a official invite as well. But hopefully you got to save the date on it. If not, let us know, and we'll make sure that you're on the email distribution list. On the activation front, since we last met, we went to the Woodlands in Houston for a 2-day activation. We've got one coming up this weekend in Chicago, which is a 3-day activation at an upscale shopping mall in downtown Chicago that we've done before and had success at before. So we anticipate a good weekend in Chicago. David from our Director of Communications is up there now. Kind of the protocol that we've gone with is his team kind of goes in ahead of us to get media appointments and try and drum up some earned media. So he's up there now meeting with some writers. Our team will go in there Thursday and be active with our experience booth, our chef, and our artist of the year for 3 days up there. So there's a lot of paid media that supports these events that's been running for the last 2 or 3 weeks. That David has taken some pictures of while he's been up there and texted me, and it looks great. So it is one of the markets that we're focusing on, and we're excited to get up there and see if we can move the needle in that market for us a bit.
Where's the booth? Where's it going to be set up?
It's in a shopping mall called the 900 Shops at 900 North Michigan Avenue. If you're familiar with the city, it's right across from the John Hancock Center. And those are all the updates that I've got.
I know at one time we talked about during these future activations there was going to be maybe a group piece. Is that started yet?
Yes, it has. So with Chicago, Dawn has reached out to sales meeting planners and group planners in advance to let them know we'll be there, and we'll have a member of her team there with us. So she reaches out to them on a more kind of personal, individual basis, as well as through some email distribution and things like that, and actually gets people to RSVP saying that they're coming, and they can set appointments to talk to our sales staff while they're there. And from what I've heard leading up to this one in Chicago, they've had some success in getting some group business planners out to come to the activation and learn a little bit more about us and let us collect some of their information as well.
Okay.
I have a random question. When was your Woodlands activation, and was that impacted by the storm at all?
No, it was August 12th and 13th. So it was probably 2 weeks before the storm.
Gotcha.
Mike, would you or Jay like to give an update on the Visit Florida situation?
Okay.
So, Visit Florida, the TDC met in August, and they had some questions and concerns about the new requirements that were put forth by the House Bill 1. And so, two of the major concerns, one was board salaries, whether they needed to be disclosed or not. And we have found out that they do not need to be disclosed if they're non-paid board members. So that addresses that issue. And the other was reporting and what needs to be reported and in what type of fashion it needs to be reported in. So basically, the state wants everything. So every expenditure we have, but we did find out that it is an easy report for us to generate because you think, okay, every expenditure, that's a lot. And it is, but it's a simple report for us to generate. So after I got that information out of the folks at Visit Florida and specifically the House, I brought that forward to the Board of County Commissioners at last week's BCC meeting, and they approved for us to rejoin Visit Florida. So we're in the process of doing that now.
Thank you.
So, any other questions for Visit Florida? So, thank you.
I thought whoever wrote your response to the media did a nice job.
Thank you.
I just have a question about the council. Now, entering into a new fiscal year for the TDC, is there anybody on this council that will be rolling off or needs to be, as far as applications?
Let me do some research on that. There won't be any October 1st. I looked at it a while back. There may be some on January 1st. I don't believe that it aligns with the TDC's fiscal year.
No, I think it does.
Okay,
think
let me go back and take a look at those anniversary dates, and I'll be able to get you an answer for that tomorrow.
And as far as replacing Sarah,
Can I just address that for a quick second? So we're talking about committee meetings and committee members. And right now, it seems that it's a little bit different per committee. And so I've been talking to Brian Kellenberger about his committees, and apparently all of his roll off at once. And I don't necessarily think that's the most effective way for a committee to be run. I think it needs to be staggered. So we're looking at that process right now and how we want to do that, because I think we should do it where maybe half the committee rolls off, you know, because I think it's a 2-year position, if I remember correctly, or is it 3? Is it 2? Okay, that's what I thought. So that way we don't have a whole new committee coming in at once. You have a little bit of tenure with some of the committee members. So we're in the process of evaluating that, and we should be able to kind of get something idea of how we want to move that forward by the next meeting. So just wanted to give you an update on that.
okay. And then the current committee members were always given an opportunity to reapply as well. So just because their 2-year period was up doesn't mean that they can't continue another 2 years if they're interested. What about Sarah Bailey? We haven't had a replacement for her, have we?
We have not, and that's something we need to get advertised. I have received some applications on it, or one application anyway. We do need to get that advertised in the paper to make it official and on our website. So we'll take care of that here in the next cycle of the newspaper, so we can move that forward and get interested applicants in.
Any other council comments?
I have a comment.
Okay.
This is kind of a big picture item. One of the things that I remember as part of the mission statement for the TDC is taking an advocacy role on issues that affect tourism. And one of the things that we're noticing at Newman Daily is a big push from, well, you may have heard Expedia has purchased HomeAway. A lot of the OTAs are really kind of retooling the way they do business, obviously kind of is trying to become the Google of the world. And so there is a big push within the vacation rental industry. I'm not sure how this affects hotels and some of the other industries. And I actually remember it back in the day, the airline industry faced a similar thing as, you know, the Expedias and Pricelines and different things were coming on board. But that message of training consumers to always, you know, look at booking direct and going to, you know, whether it's the airline, a Delta, a United, American Airlines, as well as just not just relying solely on those OTAs. And I just wondered if Visit South Walton has any perspective or opportunity to have a voice, to be an advocate. Obviously, we're trying through all of our messaging to encourage folks to look direct, book direct before making decisions.
And we were just reached out to, do you want me to touch on that?
Go ahead. If you need to jump back.
Sure. We just got a letter, not we, Jay just received a letter from a group of folks working in the same industry that you work in, that I believe Jay received on Friday of last week, asking for a meeting to discuss how we can kind of work together to see if we can help in that battle, knowing the changes that are taking place in that industry. And I believe we've reached back out and said, thanks for your interest, let's get a meeting on the calendar. So your timing is good, because we just got asked to take a role, or at least listen to that voice. So we're getting a meeting arranged for that.
Okay, well, please keep us posted, obviously. Jeannie Daly and myself
Sure.
are very interested.
So I've talked to a few folks who weren't included on the letter. And so what I'd like to do is we're going to have a meeting actually tomorrow internally on how we might be able to assist and address this. And then we're going to reach back out. But what I'd like to do is carry it a step further, and entities that weren't a part of that letter, reach out to them and say, hey, we received this letter. It's some concerns from our community, and would you like to be a part of this? I did speak with Jennifer Frost with Wyndham, and she was not aware even of the letter, and she said, I'd like to really be a part of the conversation. So obviously, once we meet, I'll be reaching out to our bed tax collectors who weren't included in that letter and talk to them and see how we can move that forward. in my opinion, I think the more we can reach out and collectively work together, I think that's the best way to approach that.
I agree, there's power in numbers, and that sounds great.
Great.
For those that aren't in that industry, how is this affecting you? I mean, is because you still get the bed tax collected, right? No matter who books it? Is that correct?
Sure.
Just stand up there.
I'll just stand up here. So, the OTAs, I mean, they take a percentage. And so if you were to go directly to Newman Daily and book your room there, they're going to bring in more money locally to our local economy versus an
Because
OTA.
it's the minus the commission they're paying.
Minus the commission, and then usually the OTAs are a lesser rate, not always, but usually. And so if you can book direct, it's better for our local economy. You don't have that chunk, that percentage going out of the area to an OTA.
Okay.
And they're just starting to take more controls. They've really, there's been a shift lately. Instead of, first they were kind of serving the public, helping them to find us, and now they're taking a more aggressive role, and they want them to be the face. They're not even letting you know it's Newman Daily. They're not giving their contact. I mean, they are completely, there's definitely a move in the industry.
Yeah, they've changed their models, specifically VRBO, which was, the 800-pound gorilla. So I think a lot of people are disappointed in their shift in their model. And so
Because they're all being acquired,
Yep.
and so,
Yep.
yes.
And so I think people are looking for a different way to market themselves. And however the TDC can help out with that, we're happy to do so. So we're going to start exploring those options.
That's awesome. I think it's just an opportunity for us to train the consumer to, again, considering all sources. And again, I know the airlines industry went through this some time ago, and the book direct message is important.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the explanation. Okay, we've reached the area in our agenda that we're supposed to ask for the public's comments. So, all right, well, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up before we adjourn?
You know what, I got one little thing, and I should have brought it up earlier, but I've just been thinking about it. It's back to the pieces here. I like the strong, on the copy side, or like feeling truly weightless, right? Love the big, strong messaging, even the bolder print there, and then the next layer there, the smaller print. I don't know how impactful that is. It seems in some of these examples, it doesn't seem to really give a big impact to the top line. I don't know if it's something to think about, and just have just the strong message up top, and not necessarily mention the grilled cheese or whatever underneath. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a thought. I just wanted to bring it up. I should have brought it up earlier. Sorry about that, but I love elevating your pulse or whatever. I mean, you don't have to say much more than that when you can see the breathtaking view. It's going to elevate your pulse whether you're running or just walking on the beach, because it's so intense and awesome. But it's just a thought. I wanted to bring that up there.
Less is more.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay, if there are no other comments, we will move to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you very
Second.
much.
We needed it. Thanks, everybody. That might be the shortest one ever.
One ever, yeah. Whoa. Look, too.
You should have stuck us up here